All right. So, you picked a terrible time to begin to do that. Hitoki's mad. You're fine. That was hilarious. I can see why you did it. Okay, so this is chapter 23 of my fic song with 10 names. The title for it is Prom Queen. Prom Queen being the song by Beach Bunny. The summary is: ladies are meant to look pretty and keep their mouths shut. But Takara the sad clown isn't pretty. So therefore, does she have the right to speak? Her makeup drips, and she feels like a fool in front of two handsome artists. But do they think the same way her demons do? Shut up, count your calories. I never looked good in mom jeans. Wish I was like you. Blue-eyed blondie, perfect body. There's something special about sitting cross-legged on a back porch in early fall. The way the air is still warm and the shade isn't too cool, and the smell of wood wafts from the boards underneath you. The fading roses that wilt on the bush are perfect for the performer's homemade flower press, which sits in ties beside her now. Data and the siren are idling time by, waiting until her friends, amazing she's closer to them than he is, how long he's been a part of the gang, are back from the initial surveillance and security setup of their new home base. Home base, indeed, the artist notes, sticking the tongue on his face out just a bit in concentration as he kneads clay in his fingers. He had expected Pain-sama to pick something more like a cave. Surely that's where their leader lives, with how much time they spend in one when he's around. A house, though, nearly a mansion in size, though it feels more like an apartment complex with shared amenities. Just enough room to house the Akatsuki, even if the elbows are bumped a little too much. Yet, he caught that girl again, sleeping on the couch. Takara-chan, the blonde begins to ask, the honorific used more in a friendly sense and less cutesy than how Toby sings it to her. What's up with that? After a hum in response, her looking up from a blank book he lent to her to doodle with, Data elaborates. His visible eye flickers between her and his half-done creation, dappled light spotting a ring of blue around his pupil. Why don't you just pick a room? Hell, you could kick one of the others out while they're gone. I'd watch your back. If only because the sight of it would be so funny. Red-faced Hidan gaining as close as a man can to exploding. Kakuzu chasing her down the hall with a thread-laced fist. And Kizame pinning her to the wall with that brick of a sword. And perhaps Itachi will finally demonstrate once more how he shows no mercy. The traveler wouldn't die, of course, just barely scrape by, and Deidara would look all the braver rescuing her from it. But this fantasy is cut short as the woman shakes her head. It doesn't feel right. The artist hums once more, tilting his head so that yet more of his face is curtained by golden strands of hair. That's all you got, huh? Nothing more elaborate? He prods with curiosity. But unfortunately, this time she nods in confirmation. Hum number 3 comes longer, releasing a bit of his confusion and fascination. Well, do mull it over. I'd love to get into your head. Each leaf, whether still green or beginning to brown, sigh together in the pleasant breeze in such a way it sounds like waves. No matter how far she goes, the ocean chases her, caresses her, loves her to death. Though that's only of her to blame. She puts aside the ethereal dreams that have been coming in and out of her sleep like a tide. Considers the addition of the pair she's hardly known, 2.5 days. The trickery Deidara of Iwahakakure, pulled for more time than not since they've met, has repeated in her psyche tenfold. The word so sweet amplified, moaned under his breath with touches no one has ever dared to provide her. She's gotten used to pushing the images of men from red clouds to the corner of her mind, well enough so it doesn't interfere with merely trying to fit in, like a normal human being, as much as she can, as much as a circle can find home in a square hole. But with this one, it's harder. He brought up so much about her appearance, lied about her being attractive. It makes it harder to forget. She's never been called pretty before. It has to be okay that he didn't mean it. That's the only answer. No more time letting the feelings of others outside of her control haunt her. Not again into this life. Her eyes raise, trying to take the man in with less of this touch-starved lust and more kindness, sincerity. Though he doesn't seem to notice her doing so, she notes the way he evaluates his clay is still so sharp. Let me read that again. I put on round emphasis. Though he doesn't seem to notice her doing so, she notes the way he evaluates his clay is still so sharp. The brush in her hand loses its path as the woman becomes distracted. Why does his gaze always seem that way? Her own eyes crinkle with a slight squint, trying to judge that part of his face like Deidara himself is a work of art on public display. There's a crinkle of his own, she realizes. That something hides how softly, indeed softly, he's lowered those lids down in meditation. What is it that's deflecting her from that, making him seem so manic? Her stare outlines his lashes, until she realizes that it's that very thing. Oh, she murmurs aloud. Eyeliner. He grunts, only understanding she spoke and not yet the comment she made. Despite herself, she goes against her gut and repeats. I only just noticed you're wearing eyeliner. Ah, yes. Perhaps pointedly, he looks up at her, and the suspicion is confirmed as the black above his eyeball appears to thin as his gaze raises. You don't have to tell me. It looks good. Whether he's patting himself on the back, defying her possible scrutiny of a man wearing makeup, or hiding embarrassment, doesn't matter. Her response is the same, is genuine. It does look good. She bites the inside of her lip for a split second before deciding to dig up bad memories. I was never really good at it myself. There's a nice view now as he blinks. How far up his eyelid the black ink has been painted. As an artist, he knows well the kind of look on her face. Admiration. Admiration for that which she'd love to recreate. A fourth hum, but this one is closer to a chuckle. One hand puts his project into his pocket, while the other brushes his large yellow bane back, beginning to retie the hair so his face remains visible. Fully visible, even. His smirk looks so much lopsided now that it's entirely unobscured, though the woman can't say the rest of his face is more symmetrical. There's a metal eyepiece of two colored orbs where the matching eyeball should be. What's that? She asks. Oh, Deidara notes. How quickly her attention can be redirected. He pockets that detail for later. My scope, he explains with no complaint. I battle from afar. Display my art from that distance too. Makes it all the more precise. She blinks, trying to imagine herself through the largest lens, the blue one that's more turquoise-leaning than his natural sky-colored eye. Can it be a microscope in addition to binoculars? A question forgotten, as like it was made to lock in and out of place upon his head. Most certainly was, silly girl. The eyepiece is removed, gently set upon the planks of wood that make up their floor outside. Closed is, most assuredly, another human eye. and it looks so different without the liner. The previous hypothesis is confirmed. His unaltered state is so relaxed, mild. Perhaps you can practice. Deidara proposes. No tone to indicate how intimate this action has always seemed to her on television. You'll have an example to imitate, perhaps teach you how to make the strokes, the shapes you've been missing. Heat dusts her cheeks, but how can she say no? Though he leans forward to help, and so does she, it still feels as if the woman is practically on the man's lap as they begin, a brush in one hand and a tin of black ink in the other. The tip of it looks so shaky, so saturated, even after she re-dips the tool as to try to be rid of the excess liquid. As she studies the handsome man's visage, those piercing eyes look up at her, his head tilted down as to aid the angle she needs to work with. It makes her heart flutter. She swallows back memories of her dream last night and tries to be as close to a regular, acceptable person as she can. The ink is cold on Deidara's skin as she attempts to recreate his design. It's simple enough, appearance meant to be, for the most part, a complete surrounding of his eyeball. But there's artistry down to even this about him, the way it's drawn just so, varying thickness and depth to give the illusion of uniformity, as a head-on view of the invisible paparazzi. His stare of his one already painted, open eye follows like a mirror each motion between her fingertips, no matter how sketchy, or unsure, or smooth. There is nothing more flattering than to learn from another's own technique. The woman's brow furrows as her wrist gets sore, forcing her to move more from the shoulder than with her fingers. Bigger movements, perhaps, but surprisingly finds it makes for cleaner strokes. She exhales gently, in and out with a prayer that he can't feel it on his nose, and paints on one last streak from the external corner of his eye to make a wane, like how an artist signs their signature. Confident, or at least committed to the vision at hand. A pocket mirror is brought from the inner of his cloak, a click as it opens and tilts his image up for him to grade. And though he always smiles, after studying his face for so long, she begins to have a better idea that this one means something closer to good. Confirmed as simultaneously, the mirror shuts and so do his eyes in satisfaction. Well done. She didn't realize she was so tense until his response makes her shoulders drop with relief. I saw you started to draw from the shoulder. It takes control, but that's the ideal way to do it. Good work. A finger lazily pulls the skin of the lower lid, trying to clean it up. Though maybe don't start from the outer corner to the inner for the bottom eyelid next time. A nervous smile grows from her lips, the emotion in her chest so careful, so guarded. Deidara, sir? The eye she did opens. It sees how forced that grin on her face is, so guilty somehow, but needing to persist, lest she give up entirely. Can you do mine? Gradually, the left eye widens. A bit of red airbrushes his own cheeks. Yeah, sure. The traveler swears that even though her hands are to herself, tying their fingers into knots upon her lap, the artist can still feel her shake. The look he wears, it's indifferent, she decides, at least to her as the canvas. The bit of pink sticking out of his mouth, the one on his face, mind you, it's hard to forget that one of his hands could open up and lick her cheek at any moment, is simply due to concentration, attempting to beautify that which must be difficult to do. The buzzes of satisfaction from his lips are about his handiwork, not her. The woman has to remind herself these things. She must, lest her head get too big. She climbs up the ladder of self-importance, only to so easily crash down with a couple of words, as has already occurred in a past life she lived halfway through. And so the woman must meditate not on the man but the process. He uses a fingertip to press the right eyelid down, and she abides, closing both. The end of his immaculately painted nail is used to comb the lashes in the correct direction, so lightly and precisely. And then, finally, the cold ink on her skin is so smooth, obvious that he's done this every day of his life. Is she a challenge, then? She wonders. Her imperfections, a bump in the road, in comparison to a handsome face he's used to. There's a part where a palm cups her cheek, and he leans in close, so near that warm breath fans by her nose. Her right eye, now complete as he sculpts the left, cracks open. It glimpses that airy, fresh sky blue, a ring around a black hole that sucks her in. As soon as Daedra's eyeball twitches to indicate his gaze is shifting, her own eye shuts again, and it stays that way until she feels his presence pull off. And even then not until he gives permission. Even though she doesn't see, she feels his frown in the last few minutes, the way he shifts from fun to displeasure. One second. Take a look. Lashes dipped in black flutter, unused to the weight upon them, as the performer opens her eyes to find that tiny mirror of his right in her space, the only thing she could possibly see first. A stranger sits in his palm, blinking up at the woman with an unfamiliar stare. I'd say it's quite a look on you. Emotions seep in through her, so very aware skin, and sink to the bottom of her stomach. Does that mean she looks good? Bad? Is it sarcasm or praise? Is it simply the most polite way to avoid lying to her? Avoid a compliment he doesn't mean. The corners of the face's mouth twitch up, but just as quickly fall down. Takara? She pulls back to reality as best as she can, glancing up at her sculptor. It's clear Daedra is waiting for a reaction. And so, not knowing what the truth is, she must merely be courteous. You're very good at what you do. And as outwardly he smirks to upset the compliment, internally he notes something that the woman has kept hidden in plain sight. It's hard to miss when you drink in someone's presence for so long. Agonize over details so precisely and in close range. He needs to talk to Sorcery. Hopefully the promise of a future favor can drag the hermit crab out of his new, dark and dusty shell. Chapter break. Maybe I should try harder. You should lower your expectations. I'm no quick curl Barbie. I was never cut out for prom queen. You look like a doll. Hey, Terry. You look like a doll. Toby's words cause a brush to prickle the woman's cheeks. Normally she'd play along at least a little bit, attempt to match his energy even if she disagrees, but she is painfully silent, perhaps even more so than as he found her like this. She sits at the dinner table, ignoring the cup of tea she has made, to ignore the very thoughts overtaking her now. The spoon meant to stir in her sugar is held in front of her face, a tiny, accidental mirror of a mug that isn't hers, that caught the corner of her eye and hasn't let her go since. Toby? she murmurs. So soft the masked man can taste her anxiety in the air between them. He tilts his head and shrugs his shoulders, exaggerating a bemused response. Yes? Takara-chan? The response is quick now that she has permission to speak. Is that a good thing? Oh, the man behind the swirl has a decent idea that there's no right answer to this. Well, there is, but it might not be what she wants to hear. And so he flounders. Fuller lashes blink up at her from the warped metal between the pastel jester's fingers. She wants to frown, he can tell, at least unconsciously. But each time she does, it's spotted by her own judgment in the spoon, and it returns to something more neutral. But neutrality forced, therefore ironically, becomes anything but. I don't think it's a bad thing to look like a doll, Takara-chan. Toby chooses his words wisely, one at a time. Then a concept hatches in his head, and he runs with it. Sasori-senpai might like it. Finally, the hypnosis is broken, and the woman pulls away from her own scrutinizing leer. It's all too innocent the way she brings her attention to him, Obito notes. And yet not at all. Just like him, many contradictions at once. And yet they are all true. Fascinating. What do you mean? He plays with dolls all the time. And he makes them. Dolls? Her brow raises. Wait, you don't mean that giant spider mask thing, do you? I have no idea what you're talking about, but probably yes. Her mouth becomes a straight line, pondering the monster that is still gaped open at her front door. But he makes prettier ones that look like people. Deidara-senpai says he doesn't like them much, but I think he likes them a lot. Just doesn't want to admit it. They both think they're the better artists. To this, the fellow clown puts her fist over her mouth, hiding how she's chewing on the inside of her lip until she finally knows what to say to all of this. So, she follows slowly, trying to carve the path Toby has laid out for her to raise self-esteem. You think that the other guy will be not happier, that's too hopeful. Tolerate me more if I... Phrases repeated ad infinitum haunt her again. Even if she hardly bought beauty products, the advertising works. She's still thinking about them, even after low self-image helped her die. Dying wasn't good enough. The smiling, airbrushed faces still want her to be beautiful, just like them. The logical part of her brain knows better, but Hidan isn't there to bolster her up, to tell the chemicals to stop or utter any other such phrase that could boggle her so badly that she'll return to a state of consciousness closer to present and normal. Toby senses her silence, and he makes a big mistake in reading it. He can't help it. After all, the little boy with goggles only ever wanted to be wanted. So he accidentally speaks insidious, venomous advice. Maybe if you look like one, it'll help? It sounds so unsure, but it only takes the barest hint to justify what she is already thinking. She doesn't look pretty. Not like Deidara does. But perhaps being a doll is close enough. Chapter break? If I get more pretty, do you think he will like me? What's wrong? Deidara's mouth stretches into a thin line as he chooses his words to this question wisely, following a gap of time today since he and the performer played dress-up together. He hums, tongue to the top of his mouth. He isn't a very convincing liar, not when it's on the fly like this. Sasori asked to see you. Yeah, that's it. Nothing to do with Deidara, not at all. But that answer just makes her heart skip an extra beat as he guides her up the stairs to her doom. She hardly recognizes this hallway, just below the attic, now that the redhead has thrown everything out of the hole he crawled up into. It reminds her of the crowded spaces of a hoarding relative, Things simply moved aside and therefore out of mind. They look so different in the light, no longer vague backdrop skyscrapers for the critters that shared her room with. She frowns a bit, unconsciously bringing the crook of her index finger between front teeth. You. Me? Her heart downright stops as she sees a face in the gap above, shadowed within the attic entrance. She looks side to side. Deidre is nowhere to be seen. Oh my God. Yes, you. No one else is around to waste my time. It cannot be overstated how soft Sathuri's voice is, and yet it is not kind. And looking above, through the planks that make the layer between them, somehow that look of boredom that pins her like a butterfly to a corkboard is far apart from the one Hidan wears. The Reaper's demeanor is always like he's hungry, searching for more, waiting to do something better. In this brief time they've known one another, the woman can still tell that the way this other artist carries himself is more indifferent. And she knows the age-old adage of an indifferent god being scarier than a passionate one. She's not even worth the effort to wave up. The hermit merely slips back into the darkness, and the stillness tells her to obey. The fears are swallowed, but the lump in her throat doesn't disappear. Hands climb up the passage she's taken every day, and yet it is more nerve-wracking than it was ever before. Every time before, she felt so big in this space she claimed as Queen of the Hill, Siren of the Mice. The boxes and old furniture and forgotten keepsakes crowded like a busy subway, made her squeeze to fit until she wiggled her way into the corner she called a bed. She's not used to not only inches of spare room ahead of her as she crawls onto the landing, but these feet and meters. They feel like miles. Miles of empty space between her and a figure ahead, hunched in the bundle of black night and red clouds, back facing her. Distance faster than ever, with a curtain now draped over the lone source of direct daylight. Seemingly with a snap of his fingers, a flame flicks from his sleeve and a lantern is lit, only now revealing a small footrest propped into a corner she has not explored. It rests beside a vanity repurposed into some sort of tool display. Screws and hammers and scissors and scalpels and forceps and bone saws and rib shears. This is kind of like how those torture movies start, right? Sit. The skin around her body, for once, feels like what it is, its own organ. It prickles and writhes around her, making her feel so very, very aware of each and every square inch and the delicate flesh that lies underneath. The brown eyes stare, so lusterless and impossible to read. So still that somehow it's all the more intense. A shriek sounds as from across the room, somehow and suddenly, the woman is thrown at him. Surely she can tell in this split second that she is flying right at him and they are going to crash. But though it is not necessarily gently, she is oh so smoothly seated beside him on that little green footrest. No harsh crash to be found. Blue shimmers, lines thin as spiderwebs, are iridescent, nearly invisible, as she spots them wrapped around her arms and ankles. What? Words interrupted physically at the source, gripped by underneath and around the jaw. Sasori has no qualms about getting right into her personal space. Noses nearly touching as fingertips with exaggerated joints hold her cheeks. He begins with that which he dislikes most, and it is the first time she sees this puppeteer emote at all whatsoever. Disgust. The tip of his index finger pulls down the stranger's bottom lip, just as Daedra suggested he look after studying her face for so long. The blonde said every time she talked, he saw something, markings hiding inside her mouth. Sasori fails to ignore the saliva that sullies his perfect form, as he lingers at the spot only just long enough to confirm or deny this suspicion. He sighs under his breath, wiping his hand on her sweater. Living humans. So revolting. So wet. If he sees the big eyes begging for either answers or for him to stop, he dismisses them gladly. On to the next matter. Her jaw drops loosely as she watches the hands, phantom-like hands, pale and ghostly, floating in the dark and out of black sleeves, linger downward. You've finally seen in the background, amid the corners of her sight and the little glow the flame gives, are body parts. Faces and eyes and arms and gaping maws. But the hands over her keep moving, and she cannot ignore. Past her neck, past her collarbone, breast, stomach, they find her lap. He reaches down. One of her own hands there is taken up, and as if she is merely an object, the man wordlessly brings it over her shoulder so the knuckles face him. The press of his thumb upon the round muscle that controls her own forces the woman's palm to stay open, and he tilts the hand in different angles to examine the next detail Daedra noticed, looking over her shoulder this morning to observe her attempts at art alongside him. The cuticles are red, puffed and shredded at the edges of the nails. Even now, as he sees her instinctive motion to continue tearing at them, trying to resist his restriction in order to carry out her stress and physical manifestation. Already hooded eyes narrow even more, and he hums in disapproval. "What a fool the brat is," he murmurs, voice caressing behind her ear somehow, though he still lurches ahead. "You have no disease." One hand lets the other go, and it falls just as floppy and loose as the jaw before, having no control over her own body whatsoever. Not one that a medicine can fix. Maybe a poison. The eyes are shaking in her sockets, so he continues and explains. A tilt of his head makes those lush locks of hair look so silky. "How awful of you. I suspect you don't keep a spare body." The brows raised in disbelief now curl in confusion. He feels her breath on his face as she gasps, and he hates it, abruptly backing away in one seamless motion. "A word of advice, girl," he hisses, feathery as can be. "Take care of the body you have. It can't be squandered." More flatly, his voice delivers the most terrifying thing someone has ever told her. "I don't want the extra work of repairing you after you're dead." And just like that, without looking where to, he points with the full length of his arm, back to the little hole she writhed in from. She looks between it, the small slit of light, and him, the unblinking eyes that are slicked in the second-hand sunshine from below. Her gaze is right on them as he speaks her sin. "Don't waste my time." And like the zombie she is, her scarred and cut body carries itself out, her soul guiding from somewhere outside of it. She will remember how, so strangely, his fingers were plush, less like living flesh and more like ballistic gel. When she is gone and out of his sight, Sasori takes in the sight of his dolls and sees if he can really imagine her among them. The words he said that were terrible to her was meant to be wonderful from him. To be a doll is a glorious thing. Chapter break. Dissect my insecurities. I'm a defect surgical project. It's getting hard to breathe. There's plastic wrap in my cheeks. So what on earth are you supposed to tell yourself after a day like this? She doesn't know. Her stomach churns and twists and hurts, its owner having hid past dinner time, passing around corners and moving room to room as footsteps near her hiding place. The day is finally over, though. The woman sits on the couch that is her new bed, self-aware palms pressed onto the cushions at her sides. Every bit of her is so felt. The quiver in her lips, the pulse that runs through them carrying on till it fills and shakes the rest of her, from her head to her toes. The performer feels sick, perhaps inevitable after fighting off stage fright for so long. A small hiccup of a sob vibrates the back of her tongue, and the back of her hand rubs the corner of a watery eye. As it pulls back, a black smear paints it, making it so easy to imagine herself now, a clown with makeup ruined by tears. Inevitably, it makes her cry harder, bite her bottom lip tight, and hopes no one will hear, ignoring the taste of blood. Takara-chan? She sharply turns her head away to save what little face isn't melting away. It's the last voice she wants to hear right now. Deidara stands in the opposite direction, so she does not yet see the state he is in. A mouth struggled to speak without trembling. Yeah? What's up? The blonde's lip purses, half behind fully loose hair, even longer now that it isn't caged behind his head. Well, this isn't what he expected to find tonight. You okay? She nods too enthusiastically, urgently even. A grip on her shoulder makes her freeze, but the shake it gives is mild, a worried smile reaching a worried smile reaching forward far enough to make her see it. Hey, the artist soothes. What's wrong? Come on, you can tell me. Why he would care is beyond her. Maybe it's just pity, just courtesy, and so she responds in kind. I'm fine. But you're not. Oh. Deidara is sitting beside her now, mouth tan drifting away, so he simply basks in her presence, allows the woman to feel his. Come on, you're even messing up the eyeliner I took so long to do. Have a heart, why don't ya? The tease is bittersweet, but the logical part of her brain reminds, past the drowning emotions, that it is meant to be more sweet than bitter. She abides. I'm sorry. She manages, gaze still low, his hands and lap now in the space her eyes decide to fix. The strange appendages themselves seem to groan as the palms motion up, asking the woman to look him in the face. The smile there is lopsided, and his hair is down. The black rain around his eye is impeccable, but of course it's the one he already did himself. Come on, lady, it's okay. We all gotta cry it out sometimes, I suppose. Question I have is why you are tonight of all nights. His head tilts, and she wonders if his hair is as soft as it looks, as it drapes over the shoulders of a green t-shirt. You miss him? It takes a second for her to follow. Truth be told, she had entirely forgotten that her friends were supposed to be back already. Too tired to lie, she shakes her head, even though it's tempting to blame them and push the truth away. There's no way she can say this without being mean, being selfish and petty. Her eyes squeeze shut, gray-tinted tears staining the trails down her face. She can't say it. At least not until a thumb brushes the liquid away. To Deidara, it's like playing with watercolors, and he admires the way the ink tints her flushed skin. Her eyes open, and, to her disbelief, the smirk on his face, even while accompanied with a concerned curl of the eyebrow, seems genuine. Yeah? He coaxes. It was never expected for the man who lied to her face about being pretty to try to be so nice to her now. Maybe he's just a good liar, and so she tests the water, pushing the boundary. I don't think I could ever be pretty. The brow's furrowing deepens, and his smile widens at this absurd thing the performer had just said. Does it matter? The breath hitches in her throat. She knew it. She fucking knew it. She'd never be. Even if you don't think so, it just is. You are. Facts don't change even if you don't believe in them. This is such a roller coaster of emotions and twists that she's mute, having no idea what to say to that. Turns out this is advantageous to the sculptor, shaping this situation into what he wants it to be. The way your emotions are so fleeting. How well you speak without words. It's envious, you know. The way you carry yourself. He huffs, and it makes her heart do loop-de-loops. No wonder Kisame calls you a princess. The sky blue becomes partially hidden, an eyelid lowering as he turns up the charm to impress the charmer. It's an earned title. But surely this isn't something so specific to her, she sourly hopes. Do you think everyone is pretty? The woman reaches. The blond man rolls his eyes up in retort. Well, yeah, but doesn't make you less so. I might have been buttering you up, but I don't need a scope to see that. Oh. Her face hurts from blushing so much from sunrise to sunset. Perhaps the heat has made the tears evaporate by now, as she no longer feels them. Merely exaggerated blackish marks put there for the purpose of the drama, so a faraway audience can tell what she's been feeling. Now, with that out of the way, I actually came to propose something. Daedra doesn't give enough time for her to interrupt. His word, as it should be on the subject of beauty, is final. Since you won't go to a room to sleep, we'll hang out here, together. He waits. Yes, she is allowed to speak now. It comes out sputtered and quick as she goes off the rails. What? Why? Wait. She feels her hair drift as the woman cranes her neck forward, as if looking closer at him will force this to make more sense. You... really? I don't say things I don't mean, he half lies. And again, somehow, it is intuitively known he is winking despite the one visible eye. Think of it as a sleepover. Until we can figure out a way you're worth a bedroom of your own, well... He shrugs, He shrugs, the action and explanation to himself, as much as it is for her. You won't necessarily have to be all by yourself. It's so flattering that she doesn't know what to say at first. This man waltzes in, sees her ugly cry his art away, tells her she's pretty, and says he doesn't want her to be alone. This is a lot to take in, especially from someone that she hasn't even known for a full week. And yet, he seems like the type to dive right in, not to mince points. Not unless it's meant to explain what he's doing, what really matters to an artist who defines the divine by the fleeting. For someone who thinks art is best brief, he sure does pour over his words, laying them low and slow like tilting your head back and trickling fine wine down your throat. Anyway, not to mince points. Not when it's so obvious that he doesn't need his dissertation. Cautiously, the woman steps into his ring, shy eyes gazing up to him, unwitting how hypnotic they are in their own way. You sure you want that? You don't have to. Don't worry, he promises, allowing a second to pass in order for her to drink in his certainty. I want to. He could spend all night solving a puzzle. He could spend every night solving the mystery that is this siren. Daedra watches her, wonders how on purpose it is that she coyly glances to the side, hums under her breath. The answer she provides is less a decision and more permissive, as is her way to avoid blame even for something that is good. If you'd like, then. And that's how they ended up spending the rest of the... And that's how the... Oh, I misspelled that. That's why it's like that. And that's how they end up spending the rest of the moon's hours, starlight guiding Daedra's hand as it holds hers tenderly, painting his slick, black polish onto her scarred, torn fingers. She worries it makes her injuries look redder, more visible, but he waves the concern away. Everyone will be too busy seeing how nicely he's done them, the man insists, his own fingers outstretched in demonstration next to hers, teaching them how to show off the matching color. He waits, until the muscles in her hand twitch them unsurely into a matching pose. See? Looks good on you. Though, I should tell you a secret. The traveler grunts questioningly, a rising blink finding him so sure, as the man always seems to be. You're always going to look good as long as you're having fun. And though you hear stuff like that over and over, it really only makes sense once you've lived it. Chapter break. Teach me how to be okay. I don't want to downplay my emotions. There's a soft snore in her ear as the performer wakes in the middle of the incidental slumber party, the swirly masked man having joined in later and worn them all out, seemingly to Deidara's annoyance, until he curled up next to her feet with a pillow. She lays now, head above Toby's, upon the couch where she's been since a scorpion overtook her home. A shift, a rattle in the air, and one eye cracks open. His back to her again. The woman sees over Deidara's sleeping form as Sasori holds up cracked lenses that glow pink onto blemishless fingers. Indeed, underneath his skin, it even seems as if he lacks veins to carry blood. Just pure doll-like flesh. Slowly, the puppet's head turns, like it's on a hinge, so perfectly smooth without needing to adjust his neck or shoulders. Brown eyes look blue next to glass so vibrant, midnight seeping over him until the man drifts into the background. They look right back. Maybe they don't see her. Maybe he just doesn't care. She watches him once again slip into darkness, fading away with her rose-tinted glasses, with no explanation to be found. The phantom hands will visit her dreams tonight, alongside the sculptor's sweet nothings. They say beauty is pain. You'll only be happy if you look a certain way. I want to be okay. I want to be okay.